Hi, I'm Dr. Dendy Engelman. I'm a board-certified dermatologist in Manhattan, and I work for Manhattan Dermatology and Cosmetic Surgery. I'm here to take a deep dive into the Go to Bed With Me comments section in order to get to the bottom of some of your burning questions. In this episode, we're going to talk specifically about process, tools, and injectables. First up, we're going to talk about process. The first comment is from Mona Sabar. Dear doctor, I'm really concerned about dairy products and their relation to acne. Can you explain it briefly? Thank you, heart. Okay, Mona, you are exactly right. Dairy does play into acne, and there are two things in diet that can play into increased breakouts. And we used to think that it was chocolate or greasy food, and that's all kind of been debunked. And the two things that really have been shown and proven in the dermatologic literature for making increased breakouts are dairy and high glycemic index foods. So those are foods that spike our blood sugar really quickly. So what I tell patients every day is pay attention to your diet and how it affects your skin. If you feel like you had an indulgent weekend of pizza and ice cream and you're breaking out on Monday, then maybe we have some interplay with dairy being a culprit in our breakouts. So let's try to eliminate that as much as possible. The good news about skin is that if it's good for your body, it's probably good for your skin as well. So we have to think about healthy living, clean eating, drinking a lot of water. Probiotics to take are not only good for gut health, but they also are great for skin health. And so that can be an easy way to implement some tiny changes that not only make you look better, but make you feel better as well. So Vivi said, celebrity skin is 70% procedures and 30% skincare. I would put a pretty significant percentage also on great genetics. I mean, we all are kind of dealing with the hand we're dealt, and certainly celebrities are born with some pretty good hands in their appearance and stature and figures. That said, not all celebrities have great skin. I treat a lot of celebrities and I help them with a lot of skin issues, whether it's acne, rosacea, sensitivities, and procedures are also a big part of looking great. I always have patients who come to me and they just think that celebrities flawlessly and effortlessly look amazing, and that is not the case. There's a huge commitment to both skincare and procedures almost weekly in order to maintain their looks. One thing that I think patients can do at home that is very much like celebrities is really just stick to a good routine. I mean, there's not a ton of magic in the fact that all these great products that we have at home will not work if they just sit in the medicine cabinet. And the people who I treat who are celebrities are certainly dedicated to having good skin. And they know that if they kind of slack off on their products that really work for them, then their skin doesn't look as great. Maddie said, I watched a video where dermatologists said that if you mix skincare products from different brands, you're mixing different chemistries, his words, and can cause irritation. Is there any truth to this? Maddie, I would say that there's probably a little bit of truth in the testing. I mean, obviously, if you're a formulator for skincare, you want everybody to buy every product in your offering. The reality is, if you use an over-the-counter cleanser and somebody else's vitamin C and someone else's retinol, it's probably going to live compatibly together, but we don't know because they haven't been formulated together. And so there probably is some truth to mixing chemistries, but I don't think that it's going to counteract the efficacy of each individual product if you want to mix and match. That being said, you certainly want to make sure that you're using the right products at the right time, and there are certain chemicals just categorically that you may not want to mix. For example, you might not want to do a very strong glycolic acid and then follow that with a retinol. That's going to be too irritating for the skin. So it's not necessarily a formulator per se, but just the active ingredient. So Lady S says, can we stop with the micro tear BS and lies? There's literally no such thing. Well, Lady S, there is literally such thing, and I see it all the time. And the good news is that we've gotten away from a lot of the harsh exfoliants that are in a lot of formulas. I mean, when I think back to when I was an adolescent, the St. Ives apricot scrub was one that had like harsh particles in it, and that can cause micro irritation and tears over time. Certainly under the eye, where that skin's very delicate, around the nose, if you ever look at people and they have like these dilated vessels that are there, those are areas where the skin is very sensitive and prone to injury. So we want to love our skin at home, and we don't want to do anything too harsh in order to irritate it. But the reality is you can cause some injury in your skin based on certain skincare products or even devices. Manira Jamali says, you do know that clinical trials have proven there is no benefit to consuming collagen in your diet. Collagen is produced endogenously by your body. Manira, you're half right. Collagen is produced by the body, but you can increase your body's stores by oral ingestion of collagen. And this is where it gets really tricky because not all ingestible collagens are created equally. There are studies that have been documented in our dermatologic literature that show that they've not only traced it from ingestion, but it's been incorporated into the dermis in meaningful amounts enough to decrease the depth of crow's feet by 20% in just 8 weeks. Now, it's not the only thing that we can do to create collagen. You can also use retinoids and you can use vitamin C. These are all different ways topically to also do that because the problem with ingestible collagen is there's no vegan form. And so it needs to come from an animal source, and a lot of people want to shy away from that, and I understand that's certainly a personal choice. If that's something that you follow in a lifestyle, then you can go at it in a topical application in order to increase more collagen production. The one that I recommend to patients is called Verisol collagen, Verisol, and that's the one that's really been proven in the literature to support the skin, increase total body stores of collagen. It's not just helpful for your skin, but also for your joints because collagen is one of the main building blocks and substances of connective tissue. Now let's get into the fun stuff, tools. Are cleansing brushes, washcloths really necessary? And can you wash your face in the shower? Yeah, you can totally wash your face in the shower, and you don't have to have a cleansing brush or tool. A lot of people, especially dermatologists and those who were treating a lot of rosacea or people with sensitive skin, actually are a little bit hesitant to recommend cleansing tools because it can irritate the underlying skin condition. So if you're happy about washing your face in the shower and that's working for you and you don't have acne or breakouts or any skin problems, then by all means, continue to do that. So if I were going to rank things from most gentle to strongest, I would certainly say that hands are probably the most gentle. We can obviously regulate and feel how our pressure that we're using. Then I would do like muslin cloth or something very soft that is helping to remove, but not with any texture. Then I would go to a textured washcloth. Then I would go to cleansing brushes. The problem that I find with cleansing brushes is that people sometimes get into trouble by giving a lot of pressure. You just want the brush to do the work. So just hold it where it's barely contacting the skin, and it's going to exfoliate for you. But people who have acne kind of want to beat it up and they're really angry with it and they press into the skin, and then over time that can exacerbate the acne that's underlying. So we want to be really gentle in our cleansing. We want it to be effective, but you don't have to spend a lot of money in order to get a clean face. So Sozin asks, question, what is your opinion on at-home Dermarollers? Who should use them? How and how often should they be used? Also, Jade Rollers. Do they have a scientific basis or are they just a gimmick? I like home Dermarollers for certain indications, like those who have acne scarring, but not on active acne. I think that can worsen existing acne. So if it's old acne scarring where people have textural irregularities, I do find that you can get some improvement with persistent at-home rolling. We do in-office procedures where we do much more aggressive microneedling, but some people can't afford that or they don't have access to those who offer it. So it's certainly better than nothing, and it can help with textural changes. That said, we want to be really careful with the products that we're using when we're undergoing these at-home Dermarollers, because some things can make it more irritating because you've opened up channels into the skin, and so it's kind of being absorbed deeper into the skin and can be really irritating. For Jade Rollers, I really like them. I don't know if they're a gimmick or not, but I think that there's a lot to be said about facial massage. It's not as hot in the US as it is in Asia, but those who do this frequently really, I find benefit for them. Their skin looks better, it's less congested, especially under the eyes in areas that tend to be a little bit more puffy. It helps to improve the lymphatic drainage. And so I'm a big fan in facial massage. I think that it's great, and if this is a way that helps you to remember to do it, even for 5 minutes a day, it's not gonna hurt and it may help. One of my favorite tools is one called Contour, which is C-O-N-T-U-R-E, and it's basically like a gym for your face. It uses pneumatic compression to pull the skin up into the device and then puts it back down, and that increases blood supply, oxygenation, and over time helps stimulate collagen. So it's kind of a fix-all for whatever issue you're having, whether it's pore size, fine lines, wrinkles. You can use it on the face, the neck, the chest, and so it's one that's kind of from here to here. One size fits all, and you just need one device. And so I really like that one because it's also gentle. It's not having any break in the skin. It's not going to cause irritation, but over time it really works. So Eva C says, what do you think of shaving the fluffy hair on one's face? It's supposed to make your skin healthier, but I'm not convinced, especially as a woman with thicker facial hair. So I was just in my office before this, and I was talking with Mila, my esthetician, about dermaplaning, which is the in-office procedure that we offer to remove the lanugo hairs, those tiny little white vellus hairs that people have. And she really feels like it improves the absorption of chemical peels and makes the efficacy much better. Really, when you're removing the surface of the skin cells and the hair, it does exfoliate the skin, and your skin will look glowy and pretty and better. But you want to make sure that you leave it to the professionals, I think, because some of these at-home devices, unless you just want to use a razor, I've seen some patients who've come in and they're irritated and they've actually like lacerated their face. So we want to keep you safe, and let's leave the blades to the professionals, unless you're using like a standard run-of-the-mill razor, which certainly a lot of my patients do, and it works for them, and that's fine too. So Audrey says, don't know if dermal rolling and vitamin C is such a good mix. Audrey's not wrong. It sometimes can be a bad mix depending on your skin type. Vitamin C is an acid, and some people can't tolerate it. It can be irritating to the skin. It can cause redness and irritation, even in non-compromised skin. So if you're dermal rolling and having little channels of micro injury into the skin, it could potentially irritate you. Kenny follows up with, it is when you're using 0.25, which it looks like she was, any deeper and could cause stinging if it's L-ascorbic acid. I use 0.5 and have never had a problem using vitamin C after. So this is just talking about the depth of the needles, 0.25 over 0.5, and that's the depth of penetration that you can get based on different dermal rollers. So certainly the deeper it goes, the more the potential for irritation, but I would say that's really more specific to the skin type than the depth of penetration. So vitamin C irritates you when you're not dermal rolling, then certainly don't use it when you are. Let's move on to a juicy topic, injectables. So Laura Cole says, does anyone know what is the difference between Botox and fillers? I do, Laura. And you want to go to someone who does too. I always see this and I kind of laugh when I'm in the checkout line and one of the tabloids will say, you know, botched Botox, and it's like clearly not a Botox issue, but it is confusing. Like, you know that they've had some kind of injectable and the layperson often can't read, is that too much neurotoxin or is that too much soft tissue augmentation, which is filler? So the differences are quite real, and one is relaxing muscles, that's Botox, and one is filling in volume or helping to lift the skin, and that's filler. And so the easy rule of thumb is anything from the cheekbones up is kind of a Botox issue, and from the cheekbones down is a filler issue. For licensed and trained professionals who do this all the time, we do break those rules, but it's just an easy starting point. So if we think about wrinkles between the 11s, between the eyebrows, into the forehead, the crow's feet, that's all Botox. The tear trough, the mid-face, the jaw, the lips, all of that is more of a filler issue. The smile lines, those are all areas where we put filler in order to improve the appearance of the skin. Definitely the take home here is you always want to go to someone who definitely knows the difference and where to use what and how much. Neurotoxins in the face are not for the neophyte. I mean, we have to have a great understanding of facial anatomy and the activity of the product you're using and the dose. So we want to make sure that you go to someone who knows exactly what they're doing and what your needs are. And honestly, I always tell patients this too. If you don't feel comfortable during the initial consultation with who's going to inject you, then run away. Don't be talked into anything that you don't feel comfortable doing. For neurotoxins, all of the ones that we have available today are a baseline of botulinum toxin, and that is a relaxant. It works to block the communication between the nerve ending and the muscle. So basically, they can't speak to each other, so when the nerve tells the muscle to contract, it doesn't hear it. And so the muscle is relaxed. Now, we used to think about Botox being, something that was so obvious that people, you could tell if they definitely do it. Now we can use it in very subtle ways to where it just looks softened, but you still have full expression and are able to move and give nonverbal communication when you need to. For filler, most of them are hyaluronic acid, and that is just a sugar. It's naturally occurring in our body, and if we think about the dermis as like a dried sponge, the sponge material is the collagen, and when you add water and plump up that sponge, that's the effect of what hyaluronic acid would do. It holds about 1,000 times its molecular weight in water, so it really plumps up the tissue from within. The good news about hyaluronic acid fillers, which we know hyaluronic acid is a lot of beauty products that we apply topically because it's so good at pulling in moisture. Hyaluronic acid fillers are reversible, meaning that we can inject an enzyme and they can be melted and dissolved, and that is a nice safety net to have. A lot of the other fillers are made from calcium hydroxyapatite or something called PLLA, and those, once they're in, and so they are not reversible. So you need to know what filler is being used and where it's being used and why it's being used. So feel free to ask questions to your injector. They should easily be able to answer them to make sure that you're comfortable with what's going in your face. Kelly Smith says, how young is too young for Botox? I didn't think 28-year-olds got Botox. Well, Kelly, I have much younger than that who come in for Botox. And my general approach is never age, because I have 22-year-olds who need Botox and I have 42-year-olds who don't. So it's really what your face is showing. And so when I look at and assess someone's face, if they have expression lines that are there when they're not making the expression, that's kind of our benchmark for when it's time to start talking about Botox, because we know that over time they're not going to get better, they're only going to get worse. So if you start gently, just relaxing those muscles so that they're not making the lines, you'll never have the wrinkle. And so that's the whole idea. It's very controversial to talk about preventative Botox. It's not that you're preventing, I have a 2-year-old, I'm not injecting her preventatively with Botox, but at some point, you start to see the signs of aging and you head that off at the pass. And so that's how I approach prevention, is looking where the problem's going to be, stopping that and softening it so that you don't ever have the lines. And so that's the approach I have. It's not really an age, it's more of what your face is showing. Botox in a medical indication is used for all kinds of things: TMJ, migraines, torticollis, where you can't even straighten your neck. And these were originally the medical indications for which it was used, and then we realized that it can be also used for unwanted facial expressions that are causing wrinkles. And so there are plenty of applications that are not cosmetic that the medical usage of Botox is there for, and I'm so happy that we have that to help in both the medical use and the cosmetic use. Call Me Lauren says, I want Botox so badly, sad emoji. Isn't it expensive AF though? Kind of, but it's worth it. I would say that it just depends on what area we're treating. Certainly, one of the first signs that we show signs of aging is around the crow's feet area, and that doesn't use a lot of neurotoxin, and therefore it's not going to be as expensive. If you're a man and you have tons and tons of wrinkles between your eyebrows and on the frontalis, then that's going to take a lot, so the price goes up, because the more we use, it's a very expensive product even for me to buy, the more the cost is for the patient. So if you start early, I often find that patients can go even longer than what's been reported in the package insert, which the longevity of the filler is every 3 months. But I have those who push it to 4 and 6 months if they start early and those muscles are never really regaining full strength. I do tell my patients, this is like a luxury item. I mean, I really want a certain bag, and it is an investment, but if it makes you happy and it makes you look better, often over time, it's a great worthwhile investment. And I always joke that when I first came out of training, the girls would splurge for those great pair of shoes or the bag. And I was like, honey, if the guy is picking you up at the bar because he loves your bag, you're going after the wrong guy. So if we put the investment in our face, that's the accessory you carry around all the time. So to me, that's worth every bit of extra investment. So I would say that yes, it is a luxury item, but it's certainly a good investment in yourself when done correctly and naturally. So K6 Carrie says, is it possible to be vegan and use Botox and fillers? I read that Botox and fillers aren't vegan and they are tested on animals. So are there vegan-friendly fillers? I don't know of any medical device or medicine that isn't tested on animals, and that is just a sad fact. But the FDA is never going to allow for something to be approved for human consumption or usage without documenting safety in non-humans. So sadly, there are not any vegan-friendly fillers, but you know what? There's not even vegan-friendly Advil. Everything that we consume or use on humans has been tested on animals, and that's just a sad truth, but we have to keep everybody safe. So Osib says, I have the feeling that there's something wrong with his lips. And then Dreamcatcher says, lip fillers. And then Laura Kell says, does he have lip filler? I feel like everyone does now. Are they that bad? I just saw a patient today who I thought had terrible lip filler, and she hadn't. She was young and she was getting married, and she brought it up. She said, my lips are so asymmetric. So not all people who have asymmetry to their lips or what you would consider distortion have actually even had medical or cosmetic procedures. Also, we certainly can go overboard with filler. I mean, we've certainly seen all kinds of bad work out there, and I honestly never fault the patient who had it. I fault the injector who did it to them, because we should be a team and come up with an aesthetic that works for both the patient and the injector, because I have patients who want to go bigger, 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 and that is not my aesthetic, and I won't do it to them. Now, they may trot right out of my office and into someone else's, but that, you know, they're kind of a billboard of my work, and I don't want them running around New York City saying Dendy Engelman did my lips. So that was our last one. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dr. Dendy Engelman, and this has been another episode of Derm Reacts. So please subscribe to the Bazaar channel and give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it and want more of these. Drop your questions, comments, or even your debates here, and maybe we'll choose yours for the next episode.